So CNN Plus has imploded on itself. The streaming service that CNN tried to promote for months and months has officially been canceled. And this streaming service, just to give you a little bit of history, a little bit of background, it was proposed back in June of last year, and it launched this year on March 29th, right? And what this was supposed to be for is like a streaming service where people could buy a subscription and watch their favorite anchors or whatever, and watch the original programming. So one of these was Anderson Cooper's parenting show, and another one was a cooking show among like regular news programming. You know, you would have Jake Tapper and all these other big name news anchors, right? And it ended up failing, surprise, surprise, because nobody wants to watch CNN. I mean, if you want to really get an idea of how bad it imploded, the streaming service launched on March 29th, right? Not even a week later, a day later, there were reports that they were going to lay off employees because of how bad they were selling this product. Like, people weren't buying it. And how many subscribers did they gain within the first 2 weeks of launching this program? They gained only 150,000. And how many active users were actually using it? Only 10,000. That's a ridiculously low number. And compare that to another streaming service, right? Disney Plus, which on the first day it gained over 10 million subscribers. And I know they're not the same thing. They're very different in content, but they're both backed by big media companies. And you would expect that CNN, you know, would at least pull something better than 150K, because that number was just abysmal. It was abysmal, but you know, they sold this product, frankly, as a delusion, because as they were trying to pitch this idea, they basically had the network executives, CNN executives, had set apart like 3 categories of people that would potentially buy the streaming service, right? And among those categories were so-called CNN superfans. CNN superfans. And how many of them did they project would actually subscribe? 30 million. And I just want to know where in the world you would find anywhere 30 million people that would actually willingly watch CNN and pay for the service. I mean, the cable channel itself, which is free, barely gets 500,000. I mean, in an April report for this month, CNN couldn't even average 1 million viewers for that month. And they got like around, like 500,000 viewers in that month on average. So if they can barely get 1 million people to watch their regular programming, why do they expect to get enough hype for people to pay money to watch CNN, which has garbage programming and nobody wants to watch it? I mean, they spent over how much money? Like over $300 million to promote this streaming service, and it utterly failed. It failed. And okay, you have to ask yourself why. Why did it fail so spectacularly? Well, I think part of it is because, you know, media, mainstream media, legacy media like CNN, the networks, Fox News, MSNBC, all of those people don't want to watch them anymore. They promote lies, they promote hysteria, they promote fear among the public, and people are tired of that. So it's no surprise that people didn't buy CNN's product. You know, compare that to alternative media, right? You have like Joe Rogan's podcast or shows on YouTube, news shows on YouTube that are independent. These shows, Rogan's podcast gets like millions of views, millions of listens. And why is that? Because he has a format in which he invites people from different backgrounds, different topics, and they sit down like 2 to 4 hours conversation, and they talk about just topics like regular people, right? In a calm setting. And compare that to CNN or any other network where they invite, you talk about a subject, a touchy subject, and they have 2 people, right, speaking on the topic on opposite sides, right? They take opposite sides. And what ends up happening is that it ends up a shouting match. Instead of something substantive, it ends up them just arguing and not having anything good to say, anything substantive. And people don't want to see that. I mean, it's just an outrage machine. And compare that to alternative media, where you know they aren't beholden to those same standards. You know, for example, on YouTube, even YouTube, you know, they have many channels out there that are alternative news, right? They cover the news from an angle that isn't the angle that the mainstream media covers, right? So one example I would say is a Breaking Points podcast. It's one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to, and the way they talk about the news, right? They talk about important news topics, but additionally, they cover news topics that aren't covered by the mainstream media. And the way they cover it, you know, even if you disagree with what they're saying, they say it in a way that you can respect it, right? In a very calm way. It's not an outrage machine. They have things of value to say instead of just screaming at each other. And whereas, you know, mainstream media, it's beholden by, you know, corporate donors and by biases and special interests, and they promote a certain viewpoint, certain propaganda, and they just spew it. And I think that's why you're seeing this utter demise of CNN Plus. And you know, this was supposed to be their last lifeline for legacy media, right? They were hoping that this would be it, that they would finally find a model that would be profitable for them, and it utterly failed. And I'm sure executives everywhere at Fox News, at MSNBC or whatever, they're panicking. I'm pretty sure they're panicking that they can't find a model that will work for them. And I mean, look, they had it coming. They had it coming for years. People have lost trust in them, and again, they've been spreading lies, dividing the public, and spreading. I don't know, just the worst. And yeah, I mean, I think it's well deserved that this didn't take off, because I mean, nobody in their right mind wants to see CNN Plus and see what they have to talk about.